Good evening and welcome. Tonight, a tense exchange on Capitol Hill is drawing fresh attention to an old scandal with very modern implications. During a Treasury Department hearing, Secretary Scott Bessent was asked a pointed question that reached back decades but landed squarely in today's political and financial landscape. If you want clear, fact-based breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update.
Secretary Bessent, if I'm not mistaken, you were working in the financial service industry during the late 1980s, correct?
I was.
Thank you. And well, I'm wondering, do you recall or you're knowledgeable of the Keating Five scandal back then?
Yes, sir, and I will point out that I was.
I don't want to.
No. I will point out that
limited time. I have limited time.
I identified.
The gentleman is from the secretary. Is the gentleman from New York Times?
So I just want to make sure that everyone knows who doesn't know that the Keating Five scandal involved 5 U.S. senators accused of pressuring the Federal Home Loan Bank Board to expedite and give more consideration to the case of Charles Keating, Jr., who ran the California-based Lincoln Savings and Loans. It led to a 14-month investigation unveiling how 5 U.S. senators and staff ended up with more than $1 million in contributions, 4 trips to the Bahamas, and all expenses paid stays at resort hotels. Following the scandal, the industry saw sweeping regulatory changes that was launched by then-President George H.W. Bush. Now, Mr. Secretary, I'm sure you can agree conflicts of interest and improper influence by U.S. elected officials over bank regulators weaken supervisory independence and ultimately impose massive losses on consumers and taxpayers. I think that we can all agree upon that. And as we know, the basic lessons from the post-Keating reforms still applies today when the Office of the Comptroller of Currency, the OCC, is deciding to get a bank charter. I think we can stimulate that. Now, Mr. Bessent, as our nation's treasurer, I'm sure you also know that a foreign-linked investment firm tied to the United Arab Emirates government quietly bought about half of the Trump family's crypto company, World Liberty Financial. And at the very same time, the President of the United States was dealing with that country on foreign policy. Now, Eric Trump, the president's son and co-founder of World Liberty Financial, said, and I quote, "I'm not going to get into who the investors are, but I've got some pretty meaningful investors," end of quote. Lack of transparency. And it didn't end there. When Trump fans brought the tokens, they thought they were getting the deal of a century. But what they didn't know was that only Trump and his sons had the sole power to decide who can sell the token and when. Today, the price of the token has fallen over 50%, and the Trump fans who bought the token are now begging to get out. Now, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. You can see it for yourself on the World Liberty Financial Discussion Forum. Yeah, yourself, Mr. Secretary. So this is no longer just about a shady crypto deal or a possible gift. When a foreign-linked investor is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into a company controlled by the president's family, and at the same time, this president is conducting foreign policy with that country. You know what that creates? It creates a national security concern. So, I'm not going to ask much of you, Mr. Secretary. I just want to know whether you will commit today to pause and heighten the scrutiny of any bank charter or licensing application at the OCC connected to the World Liberty Financial until all of these conflicts of interest and foreign influence reviews are completed and share it with the United States Congress. All I need to know is, will you halt it and do a complete investigation and scrutiny of this licensing application? All you have to ask is yes or no.
No, Congressman.
All you have to ask is
the
yes or no.
OCC is an independent entity, and I would know, Congressman,
so I take that as a no.
You traveled to Venezuela to lobby
I take that as a no.
Chavez on behalf of
I
your
take that
donors,
as a
on
no.
behalf of your
You
donors.
do not want to answer that question. I take that as a no.
For a $7 billion
Gentlemen's
contract.
I'm asking you to do your responsibility as Secretary of the Treasury.
Into a Venezuelan
You do not.
Mr. Meeks,
Will you?
time has expired.
You
No,
cannot
you
erase
told the
what you
witness
did in
He's the one that went
2006.
past your time, Mr. Chairman.
No, and
he did not answer my question, and he wouldn't pass the
Mr.
time.
Meeks. He had 6 seconds left to try to answer your question, and the
It was a
time
yes or
expired.
no. It was a yes or no answer. I asked him, will he? No, it was
Gentlemen,
yes
the
or
chair
no.
recognizes
OCC
the
is an
gentleman.
independent
Stop
Mr.
covering
Bessent.
for the president.
Yeah, well,
Stop
Mr.
being his flunky.
yeah, and
Gentlemen,
He's talking to me. I'm responding
your
back to him.
2006 trip to Venezuela.
Neither
Why
one-
don't
Stop
why don't you
covering
tell
for
your
the
secretary
president. Don't be a
that?
flunky. Work for the
Mr.
American
Secretary,
people.
Mr. Meeks,
trip to
Mr.
Venezuela?
Meeks,
Work for the American people.
And maybe
Don't
you're
be
going-
a
maybe you're
cover-up
going to
for a mob.
Maybe you're going to
As
see your
long as he
friend
talks,
Nicholas
you talk.
I
Maduro
will.
in
gentleman is
Brooklyn
not
prison.
recognized. Mr. Bessent, please. I recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Sessions.
The moment began simply enough. A lawmaker asked Secretary Bessent whether he worked in the financial services industry during the late 1980s. He confirmed that he did. Then came the follow-up. Did he remember the Keating Five scandal? That question immediately shifted the tone in the room, and for good reason. The Keating Five remains one of the most notorious financial scandals in modern American political history, and its lessons are still shaping banking oversight today. Before we go any further, take a second to subscribe. It helps keep this kind of in-depth reporting going. For viewers who may not remember the details, the Keating Five scandal involved 5 United States senators accused of pressuring federal banking regulators on behalf of Charles Keating Jr., the head of California-based Lincoln Savings and Loan. These senators intervened while Keating's institution was under scrutiny for risky and potentially fraudulent practices. What investigators later uncovered was deeply troubling. More than $1 million in political contributions, luxury trips including stays at resort hotels, and vacations in the Bahamas, all flowing to elected officials who were supposed to serve as watchdogs, not advocates, for the banking system. The fallout was enormous. Lincoln Savings collapsed, costing taxpayers billions of dollars during the broader savings and loan crisis. Public trust in both regulators and lawmakers took a serious hit. The scandal triggered a 14-month investigation and ultimately led to sweeping reforms under President George H.W. Bush. Those reforms were designed to restore regulatory independence and prevent elected officials from exerting improper influence over financial oversight. If you value explanations that connect past and present like this, subscribe now for more reporting that goes beyond the headlines. That historical context is exactly why the question posed to Secretary Bessent mattered so much. The lawmaker's point was not nostalgia, it was a warning. Conflicts of interest between politicians and financial institutions weaken oversight, distort decision-making, and, in the end, impose massive costs on consumers and taxpayers. That lesson, learned the hard way in the 1980s, still applies today when regulators like the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency decide whether banks receive charters or approvals. Then came the modern parallel, and this is where the hearing took a sharp turn into today's political reality. The lawmaker pointed to reports that a foreign-linked investment firm tied to the government of the United Arab Emirates quietly purchased roughly half of World Liberty Financial, a crypto company connected to the Trump family. At the same time, the President of the United States was actively engaging with that same country on foreign policy matters. The implication was unmistakable.